So you are changing, the world is changing, things are moving fast, you are having thoughts and revelations, ideas that you never ever had before. You're realizing that you could access things and knowledge that maybe was not even in your awareness earlier. And for this coming week, we are going to see so many dynamic shifts in the world and within ourselves. So the intention with this video for this coming week between Monday the 29th until Sunday the 5th is to give you a heads up on some astrological aspects that is really going to paint the picture and the landscape of both yourself and the collective moving forward. So hello and welcome. I'm Victoria and I'm a whole sign and evolutionary astrologer, and I'm here with a weekly forecast. You know, what I always say in general is that astrology can make predictions, but you cannot say exactly what is going to happen, because we look to world events and placements and transits over a long period of time, and then we sort of make an observation about what this indicates. And the more you study astrology, the more you know that you don't know anything. So it's like this ever expanding field. And so when I bring this forecast today, it's with my intention to just mark out some things to be watchful for and to take advantage of for this week, and maybe also for you to use as a personal navigator as we're going through this first week of July, which is going to be absolutely just mental on all planes. And I personally have like a very important transit happening right now that is affecting, funny enough, my throat. So I'm a little bit like sore in my throat. I'm feeling some energy changing. And this to me is just another confirmation on the precision of astrology and what we are moving through, because the cosmos, the universe really do work as a clockwork, and it's just a question of whether we want to work with it or against it, whether we want to tap into our soul's purpose and mission, or we want to stay numb. And my guess is that when you're here, you're someone who is a searcher, you're curious and you want to know about yourself and your soul. And so I always mention these kind of things because they are so close to my heart. And yeah, let me just first and foremost point out that the full moon happening in Capricorn, which I did a video about, you can go back and check it, a full video also with a reading for each rising sign, is happening Monday, Tuesday, depending on the time zone that you're in. No need to go into like big details about that, other than saying that starting off or ending a month with a full moon, moving into a very strong and almost forceful start of July, that is just not coincidence. It's almost like the world right now is telling us there are two timelines and crossroads to pick from. Which one are you choosing? Because the speed is accelerating. And you know, that saying about the further you get on the wrong train, the more expensive it is to come back, is really something that is being emphasized right now. Time is moving quickly, things are moving quickly, but also stagnation is more clear than ever. Everything that was hidden in the dark for decades is coming up, and that can keep this mist or focus on the wrong things, instead of focusing on the opportunity that this moment in history gives us. So with that being said, I will pinpoint that the full moon indeed is an opportunity to make an assessment of your year so far, to really take a deep look and see the things that I have been focusing on this year and working with. Are they still sustainable for me? And if you want to dive into it again, I have a full video on that one. Then we move forward, because we have one of the most, almost I want to say, firework worthy transits so far that we've seen since Uranus moved into Gemini. So Uranus moved into Gemini at the end of April this year, and even though there has been a few activations, we have not had any major planets communicate yet with Uranus. So Mars will be the first big conjunction, and it's happening, depending on your time zone, between July the 3rd and the 4th. And in the US, interesting enough, it's happening on the 4th. So we can literally call that fireworks. Something will stir up. So the picture I want to paint for you with this conjunction is that we have Uranus, the planet of electricity, transformation, visionary, sudden change, abruption, just a whole lot of different things going on, with Mars now coming into Gemini, which we see Mars as, of course, it's the planet of war and protection, but it's also a planet of rebellion and standing up for what's right. And you can only imagine that when those two planets meet in an exact conjunction, which basically means that this is a conjunction is when the planets' energies merge with each other and they are like fully accessible to each other. So there will be some sort of like fireworks explosion, hopefully for the better. You know, like a lot of people already now is starting to have this sensation that the world just isn't at all how it used to be, and that we are moving fast-paced into some kind of future that it seems like no one can predict, and that it can seem both very scary but also very exciting, because we are at this crossroad situation where I think a lot of us have had this feeling of, for a long time, working deeply on ourselves, understanding things, integrating shadows, going deeper, while the world seemed just more and more apocalyptic. And then at the same time you see like these beautiful flowers and things growing and coming up in the sun at the same time. And I would say that when Uranus and Mars is involved, it is highly about a system that can no longer sustain itself. So, you know, very often when we see these kind of conjunctions with Mars and Gemini, Uranus and Gemini, there is this rebellious flavor in the air, like the time where the people get together and say no more. We don't want these systems. We don't want to accept these things. We just can't be suppressed anymore. And that is very much also something, you know, the thing is, when both Mars and Uranus is involved, is that there can be some very explosive situations and escalations happening in the world. We cannot ignore that, but it's also a certain level of energy that can be really utilized to spark the fire within yourself, and to become even more clear-minded on what are you fighting for, what are you protecting. I would ask myself this week questions like, what are my core values? If I already have defined them, please do a revision and look over what are your core values, what is worth fighting for. You know, choose your battles wisely. If you're someone that, you know, you're someone who protects animals of some sort and you've always been speaking up on that, or women's rights, or I don't know, suicide rates for men, or whatever it might be that you know this is worth fighting for, this is worth spreading awareness around, this energy could be utilized to really get you even more clear-headed on why that's important. Also be careful in personal connections in this coming week, because there might be some things that has been going on under the surface in relationships for a while that has not been announced or haven't been talked about. And with such a conjunction, these things can very quickly escalate, you know, misunderstandings, aggression, frustration, limitations can very, very quickly escalate towards the end of July. And you know, there are always two sides of using this explosive energy again, is that energy can only be transformed. So let's say you work with aggression, this flame, instead of just like steaming it out, can also be used for life force energy to make you more clear on what's important. You know, I want to fight for this, I want to fight for this person, I want to work on this relationship, I want to build this house, I want to buy that land, whatever it might be, but really use it to utilize your loving protector within. And what I'm also noticing, which is quite interesting, is that if I connected with one of my previous updates, that was when we had a conjunction to Algol. Algol is the eye of Medusa. Medusa in many ways is also a feminine character who has been victimized in so many unfair ways, and then at the same time she has also taken on the shame. So one of the things that we saw around that was there could be a lot of feeling of feminine rage, feminine like things needing to be spoken about, like why is it that it's always the victim that has to carry the shame, were themes that we saw a lot around this Mars conjunction to Algol, which I think is important to point out, because it's almost like there was a feminine energetic fire being sparked with that conjunction, like now getting ready to have Mars moving into the masculine side of it, which is the Mars activation with Uranus. And I feel like that is such a strong reminder to the collective that, you know, the feminine and the masculine, no matter your gender or not identifying with gender at all, but we all have feminine and masculine energy within us. So that is just such a big reminder of how one cannot go without the other. And if one of them is out of balance or leaning towards what we call toxicity, the other one will also naturally lean towards imbalance and toxicity. It's just how it goes. It's the yin and the yang, the two-sided world that we live in. We live in this world of duality, and one of the biggest lessons for humanity and for ourselves is to learn how to stir, that closer into the balance point. But we have this tendency also throughout history, like the balancing scales in one extreme to another. And whenever it gets over to that extreme, that is when rebellion happens. That is when rising fire comes up, and when people in masses really wake up and say like, hey, this is not, that's just not, fair. And it's interesting, this awareness that has been going on, particularly in the collective since Uranus moved into Gemini, which is so much in the spirit of Gemini, which is like, why do we need a trillionaire in the world and billionaires? Like, because someone is always suffering and being taken from when one person or few people are earning that much money. And there's more and more awareness of people in their own way trying to speak up on these injustices, because we just don't want to comply anymore as a collective. And all of these things has been sort of like brewing underneath the surface, but it's becoming, seeds by now and small inklings where people also in themselves can feel like, what, I also need to speak up about this injustice, because I do not support the side that has just been going on for so long. And if no one is saying anything, we will never change anything. So we are surely entering a time of July with fireworks, with questions of systems and governments, and justice and rebellion and wars, and even the wars that we have within ourselves in our own mind, because Uranus also is ruling our mind, our thinking, our thought patterns. And I think that's important to take into consideration as well, that what's happening out there is also happening within ourselves. So when we have the planet Mars coming in, there can be some quite volatile or aggressive thoughts or thought patterns that might be rising into your awareness. And your lesson to really gain the biggest insights from such transit is to say, the thoughts that I used to have that are so aggressive towards myself and my nature, or almost now maybe feeling violently militant, like I have to do this, I have to do that, and if I don't do that, these very strong opinionated thoughts. Now is the time to really zoom out of those patterns and use the Martian energy to utilize and to spread awareness on, okay, if I'm thinking like this, what does that reveal about how I limit myself or how I live my daily life? Because now it's just taking the spotlight and sort of putting light on that blind spot. So that's definitely something to look out for. And even if it's not within the first week of July, I still want to mention, as I move forward to a transit, the next transit to Uranus happening is, let's see, we're gonna have Pluto. We are gonna have a great Pluto activation happening very soon as well, next week of July. I think I'm gonna leave that to the next video so that I can really go into details about that one. Some things that you can work on in this coming week is to see the beginning of this week as an ending. It's gonna sound funny, but see the beginning of this week as an ending. What are you ending out? Because the time has been moving so fast throughout this year and will keep speeding up at a pace we've never experienced before. So I would strongly advise you to make an assessment and say, even what you did back in January and February might not be, sustainable for you anymore. And then as we move towards the weekend, make sure, it's again like when Mars is with Uranus, make sure that you are not spitting fire, go a walk around the block if you get agitated, wait to respond to that email. If you have someone provoking you in traffic, try to let it slide, like really, because whenever Mars is involved with Uranus, there's always a physical danger to, to injure yourself, or like not be so, do something so fast that you're having like a stupid injury, or twisting your wrist, or getting angry and bumping your head into something. So I really want you to be aware of moving with awareness and keep calm and keep focused on the thoughts that are arising. And then you will be all good to utilize this energy, because there's something very invigorating about these two planets coming into an conjunction as well. It's truly a revolutionary spirit. So finally, I will advise you to look into where can you revolutionize your own life. Where have you felt stagnation? Where have you felt that you have been stuck for a while? Because, towards the weekend, you might get some very magnificent, great, grand ideas and feelings of, hey, I can do something else. I'm actually ready to just rebel against the systems that I've built for myself and try something else. So that is the first week of July that we are entering. And I hope that you will continue to work with these astrological insights, because you will see that once you do, you have many great benefits from it in your daily life. And if you like this content, please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. You can also work with me if you wish so. I have a website where you can check my current offers as well. And other than that, I'm just sending you bisous.